I apologize, we're a little bit late. That doesn't happen too often. City Clerk, please take the roll.
Councilmember Dowling.
Here.
Councilmember Alinsky.
Here.
Councilmember Garrison.
Present.
Councilmember Howdigi is absent. Councilmember Pratt.
Here.
Vice Mayor Piper.
Here.
Mayor Jones.
Here. Thank you. The next item is the Pledge of Allegiance, and we have Cottonwood Youth Advisory Commission member Ryan Young with us tonight to lead the pledge and share a little bit of information about CYAC.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hey, Ryan.
Okay, the next item is a brief...
I'm sorry, is he going to share something with us?
He is.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm multitasking in my mind. There's a lot going on right now. So Ryan, share a little bit of information about Cottonwood Youth Advisory Commission.
Well, this is my second year. I was here before. I'm treasurer right now. I'm the one that writes up all the reports. It's fun. Lately, we've been trying to get some more projects going. We have teen night coming up. I'm kind of excited for that one. We have the teens come in to do their fun stuff. We have laser tag going on, open gym. It's going to be kind of fun. Recently, we were watching all the city employees' kids. We're babysitting them while they went out, had some fun for Mardi Gras, what we called it. It was really fun. We had a lot of fun with the kids. They went swimming. We played games with them. There's a lot of them. I liked it. Enjoying what we're doing. It's really helpful, I think. I think we're making a big impact.
I think you are too. How many children did you end up with that evening?
I was expecting some more, but I think they're about 10.
Okay. That's probably plenty to keep you busy if
Yeah,
you're swimming and
yeah.
all of those things. Well, thank you for all you do. You make a difference.
Thank you.
And we have I know you've received one of these before, but the council would like to give you another one.
Thank you.
And if you do this out there enough, you can have it all over your buildings and your wallpaper.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. It's in City Hall. Yeah, it's on the trophy case. Okay, the next item is a brief summary of current events by the mayor, city council, and/or city manager. The public body does not propose, discuss, deliberate, or take legal action on any matter brought up during this summary unless the specific matter is properly noticed for legal action. And tonight, Mr. Bartosh is on spring break with his beautiful little grandchildren, and our city attorney is on vacation also, so we have Rudy Rodriguez filling in for everybody, I think.
Thank you, Mayor. Okay. We've got a reminder that the SciTech Festival begins this coming Saturday. The festival goes from March 21st through the 29th of this month. A lot of great activities. It's almost doubled in size from last year to this year. We invite the public to join us this year. It's not just Cottonwood. It is includes Camp Verde, includes Sedona, Clarkdale, Yavapai College, all the local schools, and we've got several home groups, homeschoolers that are also going to be joining us at some of these events. The local Montessori, Verde Valley Montessori, will also be joining us. So we are inviting the public to come out and enjoy some times. We've got a website, we've mentioned before, www.vvscitech.org. Please visit it, and there's all the events are on there, and everyone will have a good time. Not to mention, we will be giving away about 10 tablets to the kids. The other thing I wanted to mention is 12th Street construction began yesterday. Some of you may have noticed that the street has been blocked off. It's available only to local traffic at this point through the first site. On March 21st is Teen Night at the Cottonwood Recreation Center by the Cottonwood Youth Commission. Our Parks and Rec Department is working very hard and diligently with the town of Clarkdale as part of their Welcome Home Vietnam Vets Day, which will be celebrated on March the 29th at the Clarkdale Park, Town Park from noon to 4 p.m. And that's all I have, Mayor.
All right, Council. Mr. Pratt?
Yeah, I haven't been doing much. I'm still recovering from spring break, but there are a couple events I wanted to announce and invite the public to. One is on March 22nd, which is this Sunday, at 3 o'clock, the Cottonwood Community Band will be doing their annual spring concert at the Parks and the Recreation Center in Cottonwood. And you're all invited to come out. It's free, and they always do a great concert. On March 25th, at Yavapai College, we have an event going on called Explore Yavapai College, in which we invite the public up to campus. We give you an overview of our classes, all the services we provide, including things like financial aid. I will be there teaching a mini class. So we invite you to come on up. That's March 25th from 2 to 4:30 in the pavilion. And if you're not familiar with that, read the signs. And it's not too early to mention this. Get your running shoes on, and remember, April 13th is the 7th annual Brian Mickelson Marathon in Cottonwood. And it's always a great event, beautiful course, so we look forward to seeing the public there too. So again, that's March 22nd, the Cottonwood Community Band at the Recreation Center, March 25th at the college. Really come on up. We really want to reach out to the community and show you what we can provide for you all, and April 13th is the marathon.
Okay. Thank you very much, Council. Vice Mayor? Okay, let's see. The last TV interview I did on VerdeValleyTV.com was about the SciTech Festival, and we had Rudy Rodriguez and Wendy Harford. They're both here tonight, starring in that show. And you can see that on VerdeValleyTV.com, or you can go to YouTube and type in Verde Valley TV, and it'll pop up on there. We have a new intern in the mayor's office, and the council can also, if they have things that they need done, can ask for help. And her name is Giselle DeVos, and she started Monday. She's not quite connected to the computer system, so she's working on SciTech minutes. But she'll be connected probably by Thursday, Wednesday or Thursday. So I'm very excited about that, and looking forward to working with her. The Veterans Park Planning Committee continues to meet, and they do have a location picked out, and they'll be bringing that to the council for the council discussion and approval, hopefully by April. They'll be ready to do that. We spent all day Thursday on the Focus on Success Technical Advisory Committee meeting. There is a good cross-section of people from businesses, education, we have Yavapai College there, nonprofits, and governmental entities. For this meeting, we discussed economic development strategy, prioritization results, and plan implementation and performance measures. So it's coming along nicely, and hopefully we'll be ready to present to council quite soon. On Saturday, I participated in the Sedona St. Patrick's Day Parade, and I saw Councilmember Garrison there and asked him why he wasn't in the Jeep with me. I guess parades aren't his bag, huh? And then I went to the Jeff Christian Fun Run wrap-up at the VFW, And in between, I had lunch with Steve Woodhams, and he's a young Mingus Union High School graduate, and Yavapai College, I believe he attended also. And he went to school in Reno, Nevada to get his degree, and he got a degree in international affairs and economics. And there's nothing he would love more than to come home to Cottonwood and work. And we always say that we want to keep our youth. We want them to come back after they get their educations and see a little bit of the world. So hopefully he'll find a job here in the Verde Valley and be able to come back like he would like to do. Throughout the week, I attended the board meeting for the Verde River Valley Nature Organization, and I serve on that board, and we are in an intense process of creating a strategic plan for the organization and financial stability. Also, the Verde Valley Birding and Nature Festival is gearing up for the festival, which is April 23rd through the 26th. Boy, if you don't have anything to do these months, you're not reading the right newspaper. Because this is all in the newspaper and on Facebook. So that will be, as I said, April 23rd through the 26th, and the City of Cottonwood is a co-sponsor for the keynote speaker event, and Brian Fox Ellis will be coming to speak at the Cottonwood Rec Center from 6:30 to 9 p.m. And it's going to be a dessert program, so for $20 you can get dessert and find out all about birds. And so that's going to be really exciting. Don't forget the Steam Engine and Tractor Show this Friday and Saturday. My husband runs the tractor pull, so I like to stop in and see how he's doing. And that's the Flywheelers, and that will be at the Verde Valley Fairgrounds from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m., Friday and Saturday. And the unveiling of the canine statue is this Saturday at 10:30 a.m. at the Police and Fire Building on the corner of 6th and Aspen. At 10:15 on Sunday will be the groundbreaking for the new St. Joseph School at the Immaculate Conception Catholic Church. And Rudy's already mentioned SciTech, and I just want to add, bring your kids. This whole thing is, I mean, so many people in our community have given their time, and the schools are doing a fantastic job. Yavapai College is hosting the main event, the expo, on the 27th. VRVNO, Verde River Valley Nature Organization, starts out on the 21st. Verde Valley Medical Center also is on the kickoff day, and there's just all kinds of stuff in between. The Cottonwood Library, I mean, it's really a group of people trying to support science, technology, engineering, and math. That's called STEM, and if you add the arts, it's STEAM. But we really have to think about encouraging our children to be interested in these areas of study, because there will be many jobs in the future that they won't be qualified to do if we do not support them in this effort. So this isn't just about children, this is about nurturing the thought of STEM or STEAM, and it's about the community. The adults and the families all have to get together and support our children in these efforts. So lots of organizations are participating, and there's going to be so much fun stuff. If you get on vvscitech.org and look at that, you will find out that there's a lot of fun stuff that's going on. So let's see. I think that about covers my report, so thank you very much for your time and listening. It was long tonight. Okay, so the next items are proclamations, and we have 4 of them. So as Councilmember Dowling informed me before the meeting, I was going to be doing a lot of whereases tonight. And the first one is Mayor's Day of Recognition for National Service. And we have with us tonight Lloyd Weathers. All right. So do you want to share a little bit of information first before I read the proclamation?
Yeah, so the Mayor's Day of Recognition is basically different mayors in cities across the country, recognizing national service through the Corporation for National and Community Service and the wonderful work that we do for our communities in the county as well as the cities within Yavapai County.
Thank you so much. So here we go. Whereas service to others is a hallmark of the American character and central to how we meet our challenges. Whereas the nation's mayors are increasingly turning to national service and volunteerism as a cost-effective strategy to meet city needs. And whereas AmeriCorps and the Senior Corps address the most pressing challenges facing our cities and nation, from educating students for the jobs of the 21st century and supporting veterans and military families, to preserving the environment and helping communities recover from natural disasters. And whereas national service expands economic opportunity by creating more sustainable, resilient communities and providing education, career skills, and leadership abilities for those who serve. And whereas national service participants serve in more than 70,000 locations across the country, bolstering the civic, neighborhood, and faith-based organizations that are so vital to our economic and social well-being. And whereas national service participants increase the impact of the organizations they serve with, both through their direct service and by recruiting and managing millions of additional volunteers. And whereas national service represents a unique public-private partnership that invests in community solutions and leverages non-federal resources to strengthen community impact and increase the return on taxpayer dollars. And whereas AmeriCorps members and Senior Corps volunteers demonstrate commitment, dedication, and patriotism by making an intensive commitment to service, a commitment that remains with them in their future endeavors. And whereas the Corporation for National and Community Service shares a priority with mayors nationwide to engage citizens, improve lives, and strengthen communities, and it's joining with mayors across the country to support the Mayor's Day of Recognition for National Service on April 7th, 2015. Therefore, be it resolved that I, Mayor Diane Jones of Cottonwood, Arizona, do hereby proclaim April 7th, 2015 as National Service Recognition Day and encourage residents to recognize the positive impact of national service in our city, to thank those who serve, and to find ways to give back to their communities. And I believe we have here with us tonight Laura Jones and Anna Shrink, who actually use national service workers for the Friends of the Verde River Greenway and the VREC, which is, VWork. I always can't remember what that acronym stands for. Will you share?
The Verde Watershed Restoration Coalition.
The Verde Watershed Restoration Coalition. Work. I think work, but that doesn't always help. But anyway, we're so pleased at the amazing resources that those groups have given to help out with restoring our watershed and getting rid of invasive species and all of that. So if you would like to come up and right there in front of the podium lectern, we would be happy to present you with this. Jeez. All right.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Now we have Riverfest Month. Whereas the Verde River is one of the most important geological features in the Verde Valley, and whereas the Verde River is a major resource for our residential and business community, and whereas the Verde River provides extremely valuable agriculture, economic, recreational, social, and sporting opportunities for the people of the Verde Valley and Arizona, and whereas the Verde River Valley Nature Organization produces and facilitates a series of Verde River-themed events in the month of April known as Riverfest. And whereas the Verde River Valley Nature Organization inspires, encourages, invites, and promotes community-wide participation in Riverfest, and whereas Riverfest brings healthy, sustainable tourism to the Verde Valley that is consistent with the City of Cottonwood Municipal Economic Development Plan and with our environmental stewardship goals. Now, therefore, I, Diane Jones, Mayor of the City of Cottonwood, hereby proclaim the month of April 2015 as Riverfest Month in the City of Cottonwood. So if we could have Wendy Harford come up and accept this.
Thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome. You're welcome. And tonight we have our Welcome Home Vietnam Veterans Day. Do we have any Vietnam veterans with us tonight? Okay, so Mr. Alfalardo will accept this proclamation on behalf of all Vietnam veterans. Also, Councilmember Howdigi is also a Vietnam veteran, but unfortunately isn't here tonight to accept this. Whereas the Vietnam War was fought in the Republic of South Vietnam from 1961 to 1975 and involved North Vietnamese regular forces and Viet Cong guerrilla forces in armed conflict with the United States Armed Forces and the Army of the Republic of Vietnam. Whereas by the end of 1965, there were 80,000 United States troops in Vietnam, and by 1969, a peak of approximately 543,000 troops was reached. And whereas it is time for all of us in the spirit of pride and gratitude to recall the heroic accomplishments of the 58,195 servicemen and women whose names are listed on the Vietnam Memorial Wall. That's 58,195. Whereas we also wish to recognize the 623 men and women from the great state of Arizona who gave the ultimate sacrifice and thank them for their unselfish devotion to duty. And whereas on March 30th, 1973, the United States Armed Forces completed the withdrawal of combat units and combat support units from South Vietnam. And whereas since 2012, the cities and towns of the Verde Valley have worked cooperatively with numerous organizations to partner on an annual Welcome Home Vietnam Veterans event. And whereas the 2015 Welcome Home Vietnam Veterans event will take place on Sunday, March 29th, 2015. And it's being sponsored by the town of Clarkdale this time. Now, therefore, I, Diane Jones, Mayor of the City of Cottonwood, Arizona, do hereby proclaim March 29th, 2015 as Welcome Home Vietnam Veterans Day in Cottonwood, Arizona, and call upon all citizens to honor and recognize the contributions of veterans who served in the United States Armed Forces in Vietnam during war and peace, and to encourage the people of Cottonwood to observe Welcome Home Vietnam Veterans Day with appropriate ceremonies and activities that A, provide the appreciation Vietnam War veterans deserve but did not receive upon returning home from the war, and B, demonstrate the resolve that never again shall the nation disregard and denigrate a generation of veterans. So, Mr. Falardo. Thank you for your service. You're more than welcome. Thank you. Okay, one more. And Mr. Rodriguez will accept this proclamation. And I just want to say, and we've said it a few times, he has put in so much time, and he's so dedicated to the STEAM, and the SciTech Festival. So thank you, Rudy, for all that you do. Whereas the Arizona SciTech Festival is an 8-week celebration of science and technology in Arizona, sponsored by the Arizona Board of Regents, Arizona Commerce Authority, Arizona Science Center, Arizona State University, Arizona Technology Council Foundation, and the University of Arizona. Whereas the festival runs February 1st to March 31st, 2015 in venues throughout the state and celebrates the importance of STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math, or STEAM with the arts, education, and its role in our state's economic growth. Whereas the City of Cottonwood initiated, provided leadership, and collaborated on the first Verde Valley SciTech Festival, March 22nd through 29th, 2014, which was held at multiple locations in Cottonwood and the Verde Valley. And whereas Verde Valley SciTech Festival partners' joint goal is to showcase the amazing STEM accomplishments throughout our communities and inspire our next generation of STEM enthusiasts and leaders, and whereas a framework has been created and partners throughout the Verde Valley will bring content, venues, events, and promotions to promote STEAM, and whereas Verde Valley SciTech Festival is a successful story about rural Arizona relationships, partnerships, collaboration, and enthusiasm, and includes all sectors of the community. And whereas the City of Cottonwood will partner with local municipalities, educational organizations, nonprofits, and businesses March 21st through 29th, 2015 for the second annual Verde Valley SciTech Festival. And now therefore be it resolved that I, Diane Jones, Mayor of the City of Cottonwood, do hereby proclaim March 21st through 29th, 2015 as SciTech STEM Week, in witness whereof I have set my hand to be affixed the 17th day of March 2015. So Rudy's going to accept this, and if we could have anybody else that's provided some leadership for our STEAM events, come on up. Dr. Wills, Yavapai College, has been Is Morgan Scott in the back?
Yes, he is.
Morgan? Anybody else that's been involved in the committees and attending meetings?
Yeah, you can proceed.
So Morgan's not going to come out. So, ready? We want to present this to you.
Ready, 1, 2, 3. One more for good measure. Never done. There we go.
Thank you. Thank you all for everything that you've done. That just goes to show about half of the audience came up. So how many people are working on this wonderful community project? Okay, so the next item is presentations. Lisa Henderson of the Governor's Office on Energy Policy will present findings of the energy audit conducted at the city's wastewater treatment plant in June of 2014. And Mr. Biggs will share some information with us.
Madam Mayor, Council, good evening. It's a pleasure to introduce Lisa Henderson with the Governor's Office of Energy Policy. She was instrumental in obtaining for the city a very comprehensive energy audit. She's here this evening to give you some distilled facts regarding that audit and some recommendations about how we can move forward, improve energy efficiency, and what the future holds for us. So, Lisa?
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. It's great to be here this evening on behalf of the Governor's Office of Energy. I've probably met many of you or several of you in the past in my former role as the state coordinator for the Main Street program. So I was asked already by a couple of folks this evening about my prior role and where I am today. So it is exciting to be here tonight to talk a little bit about a project that I feel very close to in my current role as a Community Energy Program Manager with the Governor's Office of Energy Policy. So I'm going to go through a very quick presentation for you. I don't want to spend a lot of time, but I do want to say that I'm very excited to be working with the City of Cottonwood, with the staff here on this project. I think there's a great opportunity to save energy, opportunity to, most importantly, save money, save water. That's one of the things that we're mostly concerned about in Arizona. So with that, let me flip through this presentation very quickly for you. I've given you a handout for each one of these. Why is it important? When we look at what is the cost currently, it's estimated 3 to 4% of the nation's energy is spent moving and distributing water, roughly about $4 billion annually. Communities spend across the nation moving and distributing water in our communities. And the demand is just going to increase, as this slide shows, for a variety of reasons. Energy costs are going to go up, population changes, so we don't ever see the cost going down. We continue to see, as we know right now, except for gasoline recently went down, but most costs are going to rise for a variety of reasons. The next slide is next slide. Which one? This one right here.
I did that one.
Oh, sorry. A little bit about our grant history, where this project actually came from. It's very uncommon. In 2003, the Governor's Office of Energy applied for a competitive grant through the U.S. Department of Energy. At that time, we had found that during the Recovery Act, we worked about 130 projects in the state of Arizona. 9 of those projects were water and wastewater projects, had wonderful return on investment. Projects that saw paybacks everywhere from 2 months to roughly about 5 years. We started looking at why aren't we doing more of that work? So our office put in a grant, one of 2 in the nation. So Arizona leads the nation right now when we look at water and energy. Our role primarily was to apply for this, to really look at what is the connection between water and energy? What is the cost? How much is it costing our communities in Arizona? Is Arizona above or below the national average? So that was what the grant really set out to accomplish and to really look at. We had some major goals within this grant to benchmark 100 wastewater facilities in the state of Arizona. There are currently 330 wastewater facilities and 700 water facilities across the state of Arizona, regulated by the Arizona Corporation Commission that the Arizona Department of Environmental Quality told us about. We wanted to determine possible savings potential and, most importantly, recommend and assist with implementing solutions, because we found out very early on it wasn't for a lack of funding. Currently, the Water Infrastructure Finance Authority, which finances projects, helps communities finance projects, and I do believe Cottonwood has worked with WIFA in the past. WIFA right now has over $100 million in their bond fund. When we went to them with this idea, they said, wow, it would be great if we could work and look at the energy consumption also to help facilities offset the cost for some of these upgrades and really help move the upgrades forward. So we were very excited to be able to partner directly with WIFA, ADEQ, and our office on this project. And what we really are looking at is how do we coordinate and collaborate as we're doing some investigation on facilities, as we're benchmarking facilities, which has been our primary role, to really look at what is the basic energy costs at our facilities.
Can
Yes.
I ask a question?
Sure.
Were these private utilities as well as public?
Yes, we have done both.
Okay.
In the state of Arizona right now, actually 3 of our key projects we're working on right now, one is a private wastewater company, a private sanitary district. So we've done both. Doesn't make a difference.
And they would contact you then for your services?
Yes,
Okay.
exactly. We provide some technical assistance and then really help with the implementation of the upgrades, coordinating and collaborating across. That's primarily the role of the grant that we received. was just to provide staff time and help coordinate. Because what we've really learned is that most people never look at their wastewater facilities. We really take them for granted. We take for granted that in the morning or the afternoon when we get home, we can turn that water on, and it comes out clean, and it's safe to drink. We've taken it for granted. Now we're looking at what does it actually cost us as a community. Most communities, 30 to 60% of their energy bills are spent at their wastewater facilities. We just don't look at that cost. We just think it's a cost of doing business. We're trying to look at that and say, is there a way that we may be able to help reduce that large bill within your community? Some of the current partners that we're working with, you'll see on here, it is about partnerships everywhere from USDA to EPA, our utility partners with Arizona Public Service, TEP Unisource, private companies we've been doing some work with Honeywell, Amoresco, Trane, a variety of companies, as well as the professional organizations, the Arizona Planning Association, American Water, Rural Water. We've really tried to bring together a lot of organizations that in many instances have never talked to each other in the past. So it has been very interesting to look at how do we get people that don't talk to each other to come together and talk. And so it's been kind of a challenge, but it's been really exciting when we're actually able to see projects move forward and really implement some upgrades and see energy savings. So let me give you a little bit of history about Cottonwood and what we know today. The facility itself, has anybody been to the facility? If you haven't been to the facility, you have an opportunity to go there on March 24th. Debbie tells me that it's going to be one of the facilities, so I highly recommend that you go out there as part of your STEM program, your SciTech Festival. It does. I told Debbie maybe I should come up and be there, but it was a facility that was built in 1989, commissioned in 1990, expanded in 2000. The capacity is about 1.5 MGD million gallons a day of water, million gallons of water a day that flow through that plant, 1.5 million gallons of water a day. I say that to everyone because that's a big number. So I want you to think about that. The average operating capacity is 0.95 million gallons a day. Kilowatt consumption, you see, over 2 million. Peak consumption, and your average annual energy cost is $241,000. When we benchmarked this facility, it scored a 2. Let me tell you that's on a scale of 100. So that doesn't mean that you're doing anything wrong. Let me just say that out of the 80 facilities that we've benchmarked in the state of Arizona, over 80% of those facilities have scored below 50. So what does that tell us? That tells us either we've got a lot to do or we've just never looked at these facilities as energy consumers. They are, as I said, one of the largest energy consumers in your community. So where does that leave us today? What have we done today now that we know when it's scored low? What do we know? So remember, the facility was benchmarked. We sent out a survey. Our office sent out a survey. We benchmarked the facility in October 2013, scored a 2, as I said. We discussed that with stakeholders. When that score came back, our first role in our office was to sit down with the utility company, Arizona Public Service, and talk to them about that and say, what are some recommendations that you might have? In the middle of that, we received a call from EPA, from the Environmental Protection Agency, that they were looking for facilities to do free energy audits. I, of course, said, Cottonwood's very interested. Debbie had been in touch with our office. We'd had this preliminary conversation with APS. And we recommended that when EPA came out to do a free audit of one of those Phoenix-based facilities, 23rd Avenue wastewater plant, I said, wait a minute, I don't want this to be Phoenix-centric. I don't care that I live there. I said, I think there's some other facilities that could really benefit from this. I recommended Cottonwood because it's an hour and a half north of the valley. They decided to come out in June, but it got them away from the heat of Phoenix. The other facility is the Fountain Hill Sanitary District, is the third facility that the Industrial Assessment Center from EPA actually came out and did a preliminary audit on those facilities this past summer. So we do have, from the Industrial Assessment Center, we do have a preliminary survey. Primarily those are done by students. Those are graduate students at the University of San Francisco. They came out and spent a day, walked through the facility, did a preliminary audit on the facility. At that point, when that came back to us in October, we went back through and we met with the utility company again and also with WIFA to discuss what could be some next steps. What would be our recommendations back to the facility about energy? Upon review of the audit, these are some of the things that we've identified that potentially could be looked at. The blowers, the diffusers, you're going, what the heck are all those things? I, again, recommend you come out to the facility on the 24th, and Debbie will show you, as well as her staff. There's great potential for savings, no doubt. We do believe that there are real potential for energy savings at the facility. So what are the next steps? Because that's what I think everybody wants to get to at the end of the day. What's the next step? Where do we go from here? Because we all know it's going to cost money. Wastewater facilities aren't cheap. But the next step is really just to participate in the APS WISE program with Linkus. Linkus is the contractor that's been contracted through Arizona Public Service to look at water and wastewater facilities across the state of Arizona. Linkus, primarily their first role is to actually do pump testing on those pumps that potentially have potential for savings. They would then do the measures on those pumps to determine what is the potential, what would the actual cost savings be, as well as what would be any potential rebates to the community. Prioritize the projects. Linkus would then, of course, assist in quantifying those measures, looking at those energy savings measures. Some of them might actually be the process within the facility itself. Then look at how do we prioritize the projects, determine what a budget would be for those upgrades, identifying the funding options, again, helping you, the municipality, helping staff identify what could the funding be. There are rebates, there's grants, there's loans, there's a variety of options. What's the best option for the city based on where we are? Develop a timeline for the improvements, implement the improvements, and then at the end, of course, commission the facility. Now, a lot of people ask, what's commissioning the facility mean? Commissioning means that you go back in, you look at those measures, you make sure that the facility is operating as it was designed to operate, that the operators have current O&M manuals for the facility so it will operate the way it's supposed to operate, and you'll get the best savings out of that. A little bit of information about the APS WISE program, and the reason I bring that up is because in about the halfway down, you will see, at the very bottom actually, the custom incentive program, 11 cents a kilowatt hour is one of the rebates that's offered for projects. 11 cents a kilowatt hour saved. So right now it's important to look at some of the rebates that are available. It's one of the things that I've been trying to tell communities. Right now these rebates are in place. They should be in place for at least another year. We don't know what will happen with the Corporation Commission. We never know when they're going to make changes. They are in place right now for a year. So just keep that in mind. APS also covers half the cost of pump testing. Pump testing typically costs about $350 a pump. APS pays half of that cost. So as you can see, APS does offer some really great incentives for the community, depending upon the next steps that the city would want to take. Wanted to give you one really quick success story so you can look at other facilities and kind of figure out some of the things that are happening right now. Wastewater treatment plant in Payson. They recently replaced 5 20-year-old blowers with 4 new turbo blowers, one of the things I think we're looking at here. Savings estimated, total cost, you look at that very bottom line, 3.03 year payback. So, and the life of the equipment is going to be at least 15 to 20 years. What that means is after 3 years, it's cake. It's yours to do with whatever you want. Realistically, you're going to put it into other projects, but it's your money within the community to spend. So it's a great story. We've seen these stories all over the state of Arizona. That's why we're here to really talk about what are the benefits and why it's important to do these projects. And that our real goal is to really work together as a team. Our funding is primarily to bring together all of the partners and to really coordinate with the partners to make sure that you, the municipality, are getting the best energy savings and the best projects in a good timeline. And to help your staff, both at the wastewater plant and to help you, the council, understand and make sure that you know what decision that you're making. So with that, I would entertain any questions. A very quick overview of what we're working on. I do also really want to say that Roger and Debbie, everyone we've met with has just been wonderful at the facility. It was not anything I had ever worked on in the past, and it's been fabulous to learn. We really just take it for granted, but it's vital to your community. So anything we can do, we're here to help you.
Roger, could you catch the lights, please? Yes, Mr.
I just have a comment.
Mr. Pratt?
It's nice to hear that you think Roger and Debbie are wonderful. We also think so, most of the time. I was just pleased to see that in our packet, we did get a report, I assume from you, Debbie, saying we are already starting to implement some of these, and we are asking for some more detailed engineering studies so we can implement more. So I commend you folks for being proactive and taking off on this right away. It's good for the city, it's good for our budget.
Absolutely. I just wanted to mention, too, that the city is doing wastewater and water tours for the public, and the next one will be on April 30th, and then one on June 25th for wastewater. We've already held one in February, and our water events to tour water facilities will be March 26th, May 28th, and July 30th. And what we're attempting to do is just, every year we have our rate studies, and the public goes, what do you need to raise my utilities for? We're just trying to get the public in to see their utilities, see where their money goes when they write that check every month, and help them understand, how it all works and why there is that payment every month and what it does for them. So we are working toward that also.
That's great. It's like I said, it's great to be here. If you need any other assistance, Debbie, of course, knows how to get in touch with me. It's just been great to work with everybody here. I just want to thank you guys for your time. Any questions? You've got my contact information.
Mr. Elinsky?
If you don't mind, I just have one last question. It's just curiosity, really. So we scored 2 on your benchmark, which
Right.
I'm assuming is very, very bad. Were there any communities that scored 100?
No.
No.
We've only had 3 facilities score above an 80
Above
in the
80,
state of
okay.
Arizona. I will say, I can tell you very quickly one of the reasons that your facility score is really low, and it was a question, not that I want to take a lot of time, but it was one of the things that even when it came back to Lincus, they were very concerned about the study itself because it showed the peak flows in the facility, and I chuckled. I said, I can tell you very quickly, because you actually are pushing water uphill. Your wastewater plant is at the top of your community. So it is, because of that, it does cost a little bit more. One of the other facilities, they just re-inject the same thing. So in Arizona, because we're moving water very far, that's one of the challenges that we do have. So just know that that's one of the reasons you score. Sometimes you can do things about it, and that's what the benchmarking score has given us, at least to be able to say, let's look at these facilities a little bit closer. And it was great when Debbie said, if there's anything we can do, and EPA called and we said, hey, they're really interested. They want to open the doors. So it's been really good to be able to do that.
Well, I have to say that I have never scored that low on a test in my entire life. So that's
you were
one
dismayed.
Reason, yes, one reason that we were really looking into this was that we really felt that was a need that needs to be looked at.
And if
The
we
age and
can,
the structure of the
yeah,
plant.
if we can bring some of the costs under control, we might not have to raise rates as much because our expenses may go down. So
I do want to mention, Mayor, that we've already had discussions with Debbie and with Roger about not necessarily for this particular rate setting, but in the next, probably the next cycle, we'll probably be looking to come to council with a plan. And the first thing we will be looking at is those fans and get those replaced, because those are probably the most inefficient pieces that we have. But we will be coming to council in the next, probably in the next 6 months or so, with a plan and asking for council support to look for funding to get this wastewater treatment plant to be more efficient.
yes, Mr. Dowling.
Just a follow-up on your the last question you had there. So this audit basically took into account all the facility. Did it take into account just the facility that's processing at the top of the hill?
Yes.
Or did it
Yes.
account for the lift stations getting the flows there?
It doesn't account for the lift
Okay.
stations.
Right,
Just the plant itself. Yeah. That was one of the things that we don't have the option to score yet. We're working on that. The whole area of water and energy are fairly new for both EPA and the Department of Energy. There's been a lot of talk, but there hasn't been a lot of action in the area because you really cross 2 large federal agencies that haven't learned how to talk really well together. We're helping them. You're at the top of that helping them arena. So thank you very much.
So if you would give our thanks to the governor for continuing in this process, and I think it's very valuable to the communities in the state.
Thank you. Thanks.
You're welcome. Have a safe trip home.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Next is the Yavapai College update, and we have Dr. Penny Wills, the president of the college, and Al Falardo, I guess, is it District 3 representative? District 3 representative on the board. So, here with us tonight.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay. First of all, happy St. Patrick's Day.
Thank you. You have your green on.
This is the only green outfit or shirt that I have, so sorry for my casualness here. I didn't want to be pinched, but anyway. If you'd like to do any calisthenics or anything to just stretch a little bit here. So, but first of all, let me thank you all for your involvement in the college and vice versa. I think one of the characteristics that I most admire about you, Ms. Mayor, is that you always give credit to other people for the work done. But I understand you were very instrumental in getting SciTech here.
Thank you.
And that is most appreciated, and your work as well. This is good. We also have Randy on the committee that has the longest title, the Verde Valley Board Advisory Committee. So thank you, Randy, for serving on that. We also have Dan Mabry and Paul Ty on our Dean's Advisory Committee. And something that I'm most appreciative is we have been pushing a lot and encouraging civic engagement, and I think Terrence Pratt is the ultimate in that, with his civic engagement of being on the college and then serving here on the council. So thank you, Terrence. You're a great role model and also very well respected by our students and your colleagues. So, and the administration, by the way. But I'm here tonight, and I'm most honored to go ahead and have Mr. Al Falardo with me, our district governing board member. He should be doing this report. It's typical of Al, and his humility has said, no, you go forward with this and explain that. But Al, thank you for all your dedication to this college. So what we have, and you have it in front of you, I believe, is the first, and Mr. Falardo says he will sign this if you like and autograph it. This is the first annual report of the District Governing Board. Typically, if you receive an annual report from a college, you will receive it from the administration. This is not from the administration. This is from the actual elected governing board members. And so I'd like to walk you through this. This is their outreach to the community. We have distributed this to many, many people, and I personally wanted to have you receive this and just walk you through just a few of the pages. This is the report from 2014. There will be one every year that we will send out to people to tell you what your board has been doing. So here's the board members that served under the 2014 year. Policy governance is something that is a different model of governance, and we felt it needed to be explained a little bit better, meaning that policy governance, the way that the Yavapai College Board is organized, is that the 5 board members go ahead and set goals, what we call end statements, which you'll see on that next page, the district governing board ends, and there's basically 3, education, economic, and then social and cultural or community ends. But the policy governance says, hey, these are the goals. They hire one person to go ahead and implement those goals, to work on those, and that's me. And then I, in turn, go ahead and have to reach those goals and have to give a report. I can assure you, having been president 7 years before in another state, far to the cold north, is that this system is one that has much more accountability than any other type of model, because you have to go ahead and give monitoring reports every month of different aspects of this. But it's explained here a little bit more so that the public understands what we mean by governance. And basically, they will talk with the policies, they'll work with that, the ends, and then the operational things are the responsibility of the college through me. So as we look at that, we expand a little bit more, explain a little bit more about education ends on the next 2 pages. But before I leave the policy governance, that I think what you'll find most interesting is the history of the college. That is this timeline across the bottom of several of the pages. You can see how your college has expanded, grown, et cetera, over the years. So as we look at this here, you can see the student satisfaction. We've done a number of different national, or participated with various national groups that have come in and conducted surveys. We're now doing another survey with the Chronicle of Higher Education. But this one here was by Noel Levitz, an educational group, national group, that measures student satisfaction. And you can see what our figures were in 2011 and 2014. In both years, we exceeded the national average. I think that speaks very highly of your college. On the next page, we talk about economic development. And one of the things that 2 years ago we reorganized around economic development, we formed the Regional Economic Development Center. Alex Wright has a regular newspaper article that talks about the value of connecting the dots from education to economic development. We do not go ahead and try to do economic development per se. We support it by data. And the perfect example is right here in the Verde Valley. The last time that any workforce analysis was done of what was needed in the workforce was the year 2000. I stand corrected. The second to last time, because the last time was in this last year. Under the REDC, we did that first workforce analysis, the needs of that. And that is now being studied by the high schools, by the Verde Valley Academy, or the Valley Academy, ourselves, to say, how do we get the right career tech programs around this thing? What are the needs in the workforce? Sure makes a lot of sense. It's a lot different than it was in the year 2000. This is one example of that. Casey Rooney also works very closely with the REDC. All the economic developers throughout the county work very closely with Alex and her staff. This is also part of the Small Business Development Center, comes under that and all those services. Very proud to say that in this last year, because of the fine work that Alex and her staff did, the federal money that flows through the state with the SBA, they had extra money. We were the only agency or entity in the state to receive additional money to hire another counselor who we put in the Verde Valley. So you have a lot of different support here to try to go ahead and support the regional economic development that's happening here. The cultural enrichment, that's on the next two pages. In the last few years, we've brought a number of programs to the Verde Valley. You mentioned earlier, somebody mentioned the whole pavilion of what will happen there. I think, Terrence, you mentioned it with Come to Verde or visit.
Explore Yavapai.
Explore Yavapai. That pavilion is there. We have upgraded all the technology in our community room there so that we can go ahead and bring different groups to that, social and cultural groups. But one of the most outstanding things and best attended things are things that the faculty have done under the History Symposium. That is fantastic. It's a week-long list of different lectures where the faculty say, hey, let's look at the one that I remember so much was the Civil War. Then we followed it the next year with World War I. But to hear Matt Piercy talk about what was happening in the Civil War, and to talk about projectiles, et cetera, and the diseases and bacteria, it was a little gross. But the whole, after an hour and a half, the group in there said, can we keep going? He did it with no notes, et cetera. Wow. I mean, all these are fantastic. And so, again, very well attended by the community as well as the college. And then ownership linkage. Again, I'd like to, this is again from the board perspective. The board had the courage to not only do this publication, et cetera, send it out, but before that, they did a survey all throughout the county to ask, how are we meeting these ends? And you can see in the charts there, YC should help job seekers, and the satisfaction rate there as far as, yes, we should. Should we prepare students for transfer, and should we help attract new businesses to county? So the community says yes. I would say yes, as you look at the new business to county, that is an area where I attested to the lower amount is a number of the comments were, why is YC involved in that? Why is it, why, we have economic developers, is that a duplication? As I said before, we provide the data to them, and then also, keep in mind, for a number of people, workforce development is synonymous with economic development. It's two very related things. We support the economic development efforts with that data, et cetera, as well as then we provide the workforce training. So we've got to know we've got to be guided by something here, as well as to provide that service to our economic developers here throughout the county. Budget overview is on the next page. It's always interesting to see what happens with that. I don't want to get on my political soapbox, and I won't, but I can't resist bringing your attention to what's happened in the legislature. And it's not a pretty picture, suffice it to say. I am very proud that Yavapai College takes this extremely seriously and looks at partners, meaning that education is the one entity, and especially higher education, which we are a part, can look 12 years in the future or in the past and see our product coming right towards us. And so we have very close ties with your superintendent, with all the superintendents throughout the county, to say, how can we help you? With both JTEDs, how do we help? How do we go ahead and make that seamless? It's going to be a very tough year, and I don't think it's by itself. There's different feelings about what is the master plan of what is happening in the state around education. I'm very concerned that as the K through 12s suffer a lot of major cutbacks, et cetera, and they say, oh, it's within the classroom. I'm sorry, we're already seeing the effects of having fewer counselors in those schools. They're not advised properly. There's a whole lot of different concern about recognizing behavior problems, et cetera, early, who makes those contacts, et cetera. And how can we help go ahead and have this happen here and then say, ooh, here's a typical thing that's said. Oh, well, it's a K through 12's fault that they're not ready to go into college level classes. I'm concerned that the developmental ed is even going to be greater. Students not being prepared. I do not get into pointing fingers. I'm saying, hey, let's all work together. So we're committed to that. We have new programs coming in to the Verde. You've heard about hospitality, culinary, that are coming into the Verde. We got to pay for those things. And I want you to be aware, we have not raised any type of property tax for the last 2 years, raised it 1 year before that, and then not the 4th year back. The state allows us to go ahead and raise that by 2% every year. We have not done it in those 3 out of those 4 years. So, and you can bookmark those. You can save them. So Yavapai College is sitting on 10% that we could do it. We will not do that. The recommendation, we have not finalized that, but I would anticipate that we may have to go 1 or 2% just to be able to take care of what's happening in the state. For anybody who's listening, I would encourage you to write your state legislators, because that's essentially what is moved, is from the state, which we now have less than 1% of our funding coming from the state. And that 1% is in jeopardy. So it's a tough thing. But I'm committed that we will go ahead and continue to look at higher education, both from the K through 12, as well as the ABOR institutions, the junior, senior year, and the programs that they are bringing in here. And U of A is coming here very soon. They're already here in different components. But you mentioned, Mayor, about the agriculture. And just, again, that partnership with them, with the retail management alone would be excellent to try to bring here, because it's for small businesses, niche market. And with the wine industry, hey, it's great to grow grapes, it's great to make the wine, but how do you survive on a business model? So the foundation is the last page here, and I'm very, very proud that we have the #1 foundation in the state for community colleges. It raises per capita the most money throughout the state. It raises an amount, second an amount, and who are we second to? But all 10 Maricopa colleges within the Maricopa College system. This shows that our community, to me, I interpret that our community really cares about this college and cares about the students. That foundation, I believe last year we put the first alum on that board. It's all people who have moved to Arizona, who have fallen in love with this college and believe in education. And so you see the number of scholarships, the growth of the endowment. I'm very proud to say that my husband and I, have an endowed scholarship here and continue to support the wine industry, et cetera. So it's something that you just believe in, and you do it by actions. But I say this here, I want to thank you again, Randy and others who have participated and involved. Those words aren't strong enough, are engaged with the college. It's your college, it's not mine. I have the responsibility of serving as president at this time. So, any questions, comments?
Any questions or comments from the council or members of the public? And I'd like to thank you for your participation in teaching classes at the Business Assistance Center, and all you do. You have teammates from the college spending time, these all-day meetings for our Focus on Success Economic Development Plan. I know that Alex has done some studies for us that can make a huge difference, and they took a lot of time to do, I know. So I just want to say thank you for
and they
participation.
They've kept me informed, and I commend all of you for taking that, for doing that success. Also, Lana, I understand that James is now vice chair of the chamber. Okay. So James Ferry is the vice chair of the chamber. So I think as far as the engagement, it goes both ways, and I appreciate your support. But any questions?
Any questions? Al, did you want to take a minute to share any thoughts or? Thank you, Dr. Wells. Very much appreciated.
Madam Mayor and council members, I echo the concern that President Wells expressed regarding what is happening in the legislature. The last time I spoke before you, I think I mentioned the fact that we don't rate very well as far as an education system in the globe. And if you look at the United States, I think you all know where Arizona stands. So I am puzzled by the actions that our lawmakers are taking. Education, everyone knows, is a #1 economic driver. Given the current funding, if it wasn't cut, we're not cutting it in the global stage. And to cut it further is a disservice to our young people and our future generation. So anything you can do to say something to our legislature would help. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much. Okay, get that computer humming, huh?
Can I just remind everybody again of that date?
Yes,
the
please.
open house?
Yes.
It's called Explore Yavapai College. Again, the date is March 25th, and it's from 2 to 4:30, and we really want you to come up and see us at the college, and that's why I'm repeating myself.
Thank you.
Our arms are open to you.
Thank you. And that's for our television public also.
Yes.
Okay, so our next item is Friends of the Verde River Greenway and the Verde Watershed Restoration Coalition, that VWORK word, will explain the work they do around riparian habitat restoration in Cottonwood and the Verde Valley.
Thank you, Mayor Jones and Council. Thanks for inviting us here to present to you guys and share a little bit about what we've been doing over the last 3 years here in the Verde Watershed, and particularly here in Cottonwood. My name's Anna Schrank. I'm the program manager for Friends of Verde River Greenway and manage our programs. And the program we're going to talk today about is the Verde Watershed Restoration Coalition. Just a little background about Friends. We started off as a Friends group to Arizona State Park. We worked under the Arizona Parks Foundation for several years as they were our fiduciary. And in 2011, we received our own 501(c)(3) status from the IRS in the state of Arizona. This is our mission here. And we also are the lead nonprofit and the fiduciary for the Verde Watershed Restoration Coalition. In 2010, a group of agency folks, nonprofit folks, particularly Chip Norton, who's our president of our organization, came together and They were actually around a campfire on the Verde River, and we're talking about how to address the threat of invasive plants that threaten our watershed. And they decided, you know, if we're really going to do this on a tackle this issue, we need to work on a watershed scale. The Forest Service was doing their part, the Park Service, State Park was doing their part, as well as private landowners were doing their part. And so they came together and decided we need to do this cooperatively, and so that we can share information with each other and come up with the best strategy to address these issues. So funding was secured to develop a management plan. That funding came from the Walton Family Foundation. That plan was finalized in 2011, and we started implementation of the plan in 2012. So those stakeholders, they're all of our public agencies that manage our public lands within our watershed. Private landowners, currently we have 211 private landowners that are participating in the program and actively improving habitat on their private property, and specifically by removing invasive plants. Nonprofits like ourselves, Friends, but also the Nature Conservancy, Vervno, Oak Creek Watershed Council, local businesses, two specific local businesses that both support our program but also support our local communities and the people that live with them are the Veterplex. They're a veterans organization that is right across the street from us here, and they support local veterans by providing jobs for them and job training. Another company that we work closely with is Verde Valley Weed Control, and they provide all of our herbicide services for us. And then, of course, our local tribe, the Yavapai Apache Nation. And for those of you that haven't seen a picture of our watershed recently, it's fairly large. It encompasses over 1.3 million acres. And our project area is within the riparian corridors of the watershed on the Verde River, from its headwaters near Paulden to Sheep's Crossing, which is about 10 miles upstream of the first impediment on the river. And then we also include all of our perennial streams. In total, it's about 500 miles of stream that we're working on. And this is the vision that the Verde River Cooperative Invasive Plant Management plans to strive for. And these are our guiding principles. Again, we saw the need that we needed to work collaboratively together. We need to select techniques and methods that are effective, provide educational and outreach to our local communities and the public, and also implement a system-wide approach. And with that, these guiding principles, we came up with 4 goals for this 5-year plan. And these are both not only ecological goals, which includes removing those invasive plants and controlling them, but also these social, economic, and management goals. And we'll briefly go over those. So we chose, the stakeholders chose 4 species to address that were really threatening our watershed. Those species are tamarisk, or salt cedar, and also tree of heaven, which we have a lot of in our community thanks to our mine that closed down in the 50s. Those 2 species we know that we're not going to eliminate from our watershed, but we want to reduce their populations to less than 10% of the riparian zone. And then the other 2 species that are of concern are giant reed, also called Arundo donax. It looks a lot like bamboo, but it's actually not. And also Russian olive. We don't have a lot of Russian olive, which is great, because if you've been up into the upper Colorado River Basin states, they have a huge problem with it, and we don't want our beautiful river to turn into an infested river system with Russian olive. And then the giant reed, we want to eliminate those 2 species from the watershed. After doing our mapping exercises, we're finding that there's a lot more giant reed out there than we expected, but we're still striving towards that goal. We also want to eliminate seed sources from these 4 species, but other other invasive species that are infesting our properties and allow for our riparian and wetland systems to really become self-sustaining and functioning on their own with little help from us. And these are the 4 species, but here's a long list of the other priority grass and herbaceous species that we're concerned with that are threatening our watershed. Our social goal really is to provide education and outreach to our local community about this threat and also to the value of our river system and how it can provide our community with economic value. It could provide us recreation value. So we're really, we've made a great attempt over the last 3 years to be present at local events, many of which Ferg know, Heads Up, and also spend time at our farmers market, especially our Cottonwood farmers market, to provide information to our private landowners and also to the general public. Again, to provide our local communities with economic incentives to remove invasive plants on their own properties. We work with a lot of private landowners, like I mentioned, and also providing the economic or the employment opportunities to our local young adults and veterans populations. This year we had 20 people on the ground for 6 months, working, all living in the Verde Valley, spending money in the Verde Valley. So we're providing, by bringing those people, providing jobs, we are supporting our local economies as much as we can. And of course, establishing this multi-stakeholder steering committee that guides us in the process and helps us accomplish those other goals. And also, one of the most important parts of our program is monitoring our treatments so that we know that we're being effective and we can adapt our management practices to be more effective in the future. So really quickly, we've done our mapping exercises. This is a example map on the right of when we bring our data back into the office and put it into our system. We're collecting data on these 4 major species, but if we do come in contact with these secondary invasives, we're also mapping that. And we're collecting wolf plant data and important site characteristics that help us in the planning process. And who has done this mapping? We've mapped over about 10,000 acres within the watershed in the last 4 years. And I would say 99% of that work has been done by volunteers, both Friends of Verde River Greenway volunteers, the Nature Conservancy volunteers, but also, and a lot of AmeriCorps members as well. So I'm going to turn it over to Laura Jones.
So just to give you a sense of the mapping, as Anna said, we've mapped over 10,000 acres, and that has meant actually individuals going out on the ground, walking the properties, whether that's a small private parcel that may be a ½ acre or a large stretch, going out for days at a time with their backpacks and their tablets and actually walking, down from Perkinsville to be picked up somewhere, sometimes at Sycamore Canyon. So it really has taken quite an effort. So as you can see here, the light pink shows the areas that we mapped in 2011. And if we add, you'll see where we've mapped in 2012. And what you're seeing there is you're seeing much more in Oak Creek and on West Clear Creek and along Fossil. 2013, we added more. And 2014, we have almost mapped all of the main tributaries along the Verde, and then all of the tributaries on the side. You'll see, like on West Clear Creek and on the East Verde, some of those areas are really difficult to access. So we had crews, for example, that went into the East Verde, and they would go in, go down, and they would go in for 8 days. They'd get cliffed out, they'd come back out, they'd have to go in another area. So we've been able to estimate in a lot of those areas from what we're seeing sort of on either ends what potentially is in the middle. But we've gotten a good sense of what we've found in the watershed. And as Anna said, when this process started in 2011, when we started talking about what species were out there and what would we find, we've been pretty consistent. We knew we'd find a fair amount of salt cedar, tree of heaven, particularly around communities, less Russian olive, but the big surprise has been the Arundo donax, which is the giant reed, which particularly in Oak Creek, between Page Springs and all the way down through Cornville is quite present. So, and some pretty heavy areas in Camp Verde as well. So as we said, some of the things we've accomplished, we've mapped nearly 10,000 acres. We've trained over 65 local veterans and young adults. We've created seasonal jobs. Our work seasons last 22 weeks. They start at the beginning of September, and our crews work all the way through the end of February. Sometimes that's pleasant, sometimes that's incredibly difficult and cold. They've been down on the Verde, and you feel terrible because you see them and they're shattering. We have treated a total of 6,800 acres, which means that we've actually gone in and removed invasive plants from those areas. And this year we started retreating. So as everybody knows, these plants are pretty tenacious. They don't have a lot of natural enemies. There's not a lot of bugs going after them and things like that. Nobody's eating them. The wildlife isn't eating them. So they don't have a lot of things to sort of bat them back like our native plants do. So they come back even after they've been treated. So we've done a lot of work going back. We had a crew of 4 this year that went back and started to look at the treatments we had done in 2012 and started to work on those and retreat those. And we're working with private landowners, particularly people who are really enthusiastic, where we've come in and done an initial treatment, and then we train them on how to do the retreatment so they can actually do the work and be part of the monitoring and part of that retreatment process, because this is quite an undertaking, as you can imagine. So what we've done in the city of Cottonwood, we've done a lot of work at Riverfront Park on Ural's property. We've done an extensive amount of work in Dead Horse Ranch State Park and the Verde River Greenway overall. We've done invasive plant removal on the jail trail and then also on private properties here in Cottonwood. In addition to what we've been doing with V-Work, our Friends of Verde River Greenway volunteers, and I know Diane has come out with them some days, have been doing a lot of work to rebuild and continue to maintain the jail trail and connect that down to Dead Horse Ranch State Park and really expand that and make it's such a lovely walk. And then we're really working to monitor and maintain those and remove those invasive plants. And if you haven't been to the jail trail lately, I suggest maybe you go out and take a walk and you can see the work. Our vets crew worked on the jail trail for most of the season this year, and they started at the 10th Street Bridge and they worked their way all the way up almost to the Tuesday Bridge in Clarkdale and met on almost all that public land in between. And so you can see a real significant difference in that area. And that will be, again, an area that we will continue to treat and monitor on the long term. There's a lot of tree of heaven in there. We've gotten out most of the salt cedar, but I think we will be working with volunteers. Yavapai County Adult Probation helps us a lot with this monitoring, and so we'll be keeping working in those areas for a long time to come.
Just some numbers to throw out. The cost of this, just the on-the-ground cost, not including Laura's time and my time, just our crew cost and the cost of materials to treat these sites. For example, Riverfront Park cost us about $30,000 to treat. At Dead Horse, we've probably spent close to $200,000 and $300,000 there. And on those private properties too, we're doing that at no cost to the landowner. In total, in the last 3 years, we've put about $1.5 million on the ground.
It's impressive.
In our watershed. And so we continually get grant funding, which becomes more and more competitive. We're trying to wean ourselves off.
We're being weaned off.
We're being weaned off of that Walton Family Foundation funding that has supported us for the last year. But in a couple of years, we will be totally off that funding source and need more support from our communities and from our municipalities, but also the people within our communities to maintain these treatments.
And I wanted to ask, you're trying to get down to 10%, under 10% of these invasive species, but how many years do you think it will take until they come back to their current strength? I mean, if you don't get everything.
Well, come back to their current strength. We're actually on target to meet our 5-year goals. By 2018. We have to treat about 1,100 acres per year to meet that goal in the next 2 years. And so we're on target to do that. But something that we're working on is developing a volunteer task force, if you will, that can work on projects throughout the Verde Valley, whether it be for our municipalities, on our public lands, that can address some of this long-term maintenance and monitoring that's going to need to happen.
Well, it's sure a fantastic project, and I mean, you would think that it would help with water usage, because if you're taking out all of these invasive species, they take a lot of water.
There is, and we have seen a little rise in our flows of our river, but you have to understand also that we've removed a lot of invasives, but other native vegetation is going to be coming back in its place. So that water savings or flow that we're adding back into the river may be temporary.
Right, that makes sense too. So, okay, well, any questions? Mr. Linsky?
I want to say thanks for all your hard work. I spent a lot of time in the areas you pictured, and it's impressive the amount of work you've done down there. It just looks a lot better, a lot healthier. But I wanted to ask, what are your plans for being weaned off the Walton?
Can we get the lights on, please?
April 7th is Arizona Gives Day.
Okay,
Thanks for letting me make that
And
point.
you have a lot of competition on that day, don't
Yeah, we
you?
do.
We do. I think by then, the Waltons have committed to fund us for a full 5 years, which that'll end in 2018. And they might end up funding us a little longer. What we're trying to do is kind of wean ourselves off of the on-the-ground work and for them to cover our capacity, Laura and mine, our other staff's position, keeping the lights on, our rent and such.
Sure.
And getting more of our partners, like our public agencies, to fund more of the work, and also showing our private landowners the value of what we're doing, and hopefully we'll get some return off of that as well.
We just received a grant from, for example, Freeport McMoran for our upcoming field season, which will fund almost a third of a crew, or a little more than a third of a crew. So we're working with other foundations, other private individuals. So it is, and as Anna said, our public agencies, the Forest Service, the National Park Service, Arizona Game and Fish, Arizona State Forestry. So it's a real partnership in how we're getting those funds to do that on the ground work. But as an organization, we were a small little organization that had like $5,000 in the bank 3 years ago. And, with this money, we've been able to, the Walton Family Foundation has allowed us to build that base, but we've got to figure out how to replace that too.
And I would just think that they would see the value of continuing. I just think this is one organization that has really shown to provide the goals that they set out for the watershed, and so I hope that they will support you longer, because honestly the amount of money you're spending is very hard to come up with for small towns, and it's going to be difficult to replace that, and it's done so much good. I mean, you can actually see what it's done. So
hopefully,
best wishes on having them support continuing to support you. And I agree that all of the community should also. Any other questions?
I was just going to say, I really hope Freeport McMoran would heavily support you, as they sort of inherited the problem that you're trying to get rid of.
Yeah.
So hopefully they would kick in. But I really appreciate your efforts. Thanks.
Thank you.
And since you all are VWork partners, you all get matching for your project.
All right.
Oh, cool.
These are our collector's items. This is the last of the magnets until we get a new order. So,
all right.
And now you'll see
Thank
other
you.
people with them on their cars, and you'll know who they are.
Thank you.
You didn't sign it before you gave it to us.
They'll sign them. Their number, it's a limited number.
Well, we appreciate you all and all you do. Okay, so I'm going to move the last item on the calendar up tonight, except that I'll still need our photographer for this one, but I'm going to move up now. The last item, the reason being, we have some folks on this team that have newborn babies. We have some folks on this team that are expecting newborn babies. And we have a vintner, a winemaker here, that probably has a lot of other things to do besides sit in a public meeting all night. So we're going to go ahead and count this kind of as a presentation. And it is special event funding application process and request for support of the 2015 Tilted Earth Music and Wine Festival.
Madam Mayor, Council, thanks for your time this evening. The Parks and Recreation Department is very excited, like we've expressed in the past, to work with Page Spring Sellers, Eric Lomsky, Susanna on this program. This will be our second year. The Parks and Recreation Department has taken more of a role this year within this program. Kind of the cart before the horse. Council agreed on October 7th, 2015 to help fund Tilted Earth, the $20,000 out of the Rhythm Ribs account. Through talking to our city attorney, Steve Horton, he suggested that we come up with a special event funding application. So today we're going to go through the benefits of the funding application, kind of what it consists of, and then afterwards Eric Golomsky with Page Spring Sellers is going to go through Tilted Earth, what it consists of this year, their 5-year plan, so that council's informed of what this program is. First off, the special event funding application, the destination, as the mayor coined it. Basically, this form was kind of taken from the city of Chandler. We borrowed it with their approval. What it does is it provides an opportunity for those looking to come to the valley to host programs. As this valley starts getting bigger and it starts to become more of a destination, we foresee in the future that promoters will come to this area in hopes of promoting programs to also bring people to the area to take advantage of our great landscape, this beautiful area. And so with that, we've developed this form, this application that details specific operational plans, marketing plans, how it benefits the community. The first step is that it would go through the Parks Commission. If the Parks Commission approves, then it goes through the City Council, providing that there's funding available. Back to the next slide. It was interesting to note that investments in education and public service has been shown in past research to contribute to the economic prosperity. Research has indicated that cities are spending more on arts, culture, and education for economic purposes. This is according to the United Nations Department of Economic and Social Affairs. I thought that was a pretty interesting quote. Next slide. So the City of Cottonwood and Page Spring Sellers / Into the Tunnel Ventures. This year, we're looking forward to the future with Tilted Earth. We kind of picked out a couple of key points in their application. This is the only wine-based festival currently held in Cottonwood, the only festival limited in northern Arizona. Basically what they're doing is they're painting the picture that, and it's a realistic picture, that Tilted Earth is a very unique program and we're lucky to have it in this area. We're lucky to have this opportunity and this partnership with Eric Lomsky and Page Spring Sellers. And as you guys authorized on October 7, 2014, to take $20,000 out of the Rhythm Ribs count to help support this program for this year and going into the future. Without further ado, I'd like to call up Eric Lomsky with Page Spring Sellers.
Thank you, Mr. Glomsky. Welcome.
Thanks for having me, everybody. All right. So, you know, if you've ever been to the Page Spring tasting room, we have a mission on the wall, which is that it's not just about business and making wine, it's about community. And this festival, we kind of formed this idea as a way to take what used to be, if anybody here has ever been to our Page Springs Harvest Festival, we had down in the bottom of our vineyard, excuse me, it basically got to the point where we ran out of parking. People were so excited about what we were doing there culturally that we said, let's take it to the next level. And we've already built so many great partnerships with the city of Cottonwood that we decided to move over to Riverfront Park. We named it Tilted Earth after, essentially the tilt of the Earth on its axis, which gives us our seasons. And in our first year, which we really learned a lot, we had 1,400 people, 1,200 kind of residents from outside the area, but a lot of volunteers as well that made up part of that 1,400, 1,200 from outside. It was, I think, very much a success. All 17 wineries that we had come kind of stuck their necks out. In fact, there were wineries that we invited that didn't show up because they didn't want to pay the massive $100 booth fee that we had. And you'd be amazed, every one of them that attended last year signed up again for this year. And we limited it to the people who did stick their necks out with us the first year because, we were hoping to break even last year. We lost a little bit of money, but again, our goals weren't strictly financial. We wouldn't mind breaking even this year. And we're pretty confident that we will, and we'll also take this to the next level from the perspective of music, community, kids events, etc. Let's go to the next slide. This is Carol Kennelly. She's actually from Williams in Flagstaff. She has the Grand Canyon brand. She'll be pouring there again this year. We had several gourmet food trucks, actually trying to convince the gourmet food trucks to journey all the way up because we don't have a lot of them around here. They're kind of becoming a neat new fad, and we actually had really amazing food. Everybody signed on again, and we're actually expanding on that aspect of the event as well. I'm stuck. So the biggest lesson we learned was that when we did it last year, on the summer solstice, the longest, hottest day of the year. We think somebody who farms grapes for a living would have thought this through a little better, but it was hot, and we basically opened our doors at noon and we closed at midnight. And we got all kinds of really positive and great input from our guests. So what we've done this year is we've moved it to 2 half days that'll go from basically late afternoon, early evening to just before midnight. And that way we kind of get rid of the hottest part of the day. And then we've redesigned the layout so that we're under the trees, and because it was hilarious watching. There's this wonderful concert going on, and then all the people are kind of hiding in these shadows, waiting for the sun to go down, and all of a sudden everybody fled out of the trees into this area in front of the stage. So this year we'd like to populate the area in front of the stage earlier in the event. We're shooting for a total of 4,000 people this year. And because of the number of rooms in Cottonwood, we're extending our marketing and kind of our planning into Sedona as well, because we're going to need those rooms. If you think about it, if in a 2-day festival, even very conservatively, if people spend $200, on their whole journey here, or a hotel room and back, that's a $800,000 influx of money into this community. And and I bet you that is conservative. Furthermore, we'd like to actually define that and not just have me doing simple math up here on the podium. We are partnering with NAU, and we actually have a whole economic impact study planned with this event, so that if you all choose to back us, and the money we've been talking about is about a tenth of our budget this year, we'll be actually be able to come back and show you what kind of impact that had, and hopefully we'll continue to collaborate on
That would be great.
Yeah. Obviously, people weren't having a great time there. I think Doug Bartosh had the most fun of everybody, actually, when I think back.
I was sitting at his table. He had a great time.
One of the biggest successes, actually, and this had to do with actually the riparian vegetation on the site, is our wine garden was underneath some of the old growth cottonwoods, and it was the shadiest spot, and it kind of became the hub for this whole event. It was amazing. It was packed the whole time. All the wineries did extremely well at this event, both selling wines by the glass and doing tastings, but also selling bottles offsite. We had Bash's donated a refrigerated truck, so if somebody ordered wine, we would store it there and give them a ticket, and they can come pick it up at the end of the day, so they didn't have to worry about it spoiling. We did go with what we call Govino. What are they? I don't want to call them plastic, but they're like, there's some basically plastic wine glasses. They're actually quite nice wine glasses. That way we had obviously made sure that we didn't have broken glass anywhere on the site. The bottles were not, the bottles that people bought were only allowed, we actually handed to them outside the area, and they had to leave the premises. So we did take good care of the park, I believe. This is a quick representation of how we're going to be laying things out this year. If anybody did attend last year, we're doing it a little differently. Probably the biggest difference is that if you see the stage way up on the right there, the stage was where you see the kids zone last year. And Hezekiah, the city, felt very strongly about us having the stage facing away from the neighborhoods, the Jochums, et cetera, who, by the way, we did invite and comp them, and we reached out to everybody in those neighborhoods to make sure that we weren't impacting their quiet neighborhood. Anyway, so the stage will be over there. Now the wine garden will stay in the same spot. The parking lot will remain kind of a food and vendor area. We've really taken the kids' events to the next level. The area where the stage was, because there's a lot of trees, we're going to have everything from the classic bounce rooms and rock climbing walls, but also we have an archaeologist coming in, and he's going to do an archaeological dig where he's going to bury things in the sandboxes, and we're going to run these events where they'll unearth dinosaur bones, and because we really do want to see this be a family-based event and not just something where people come and sip wine.
And we have Verbno here tonight. I think Wendy Harford's been working on providing some of the children's activities.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so, you have to ask the question, too, of what are our goals in the long run. And obviously, they change with time as we're learning during this process. Certainly from year 1 to year 2, single day, long day, 2 shorter days. We are also going to have a wine competition this year. And rather than it being something that's kind of pretentious and snobby where some officials preside over this thing, it's going to be a People's Choice Award, which is really what wine should be about. And I don't care if you can get $100 for a bottle and Robert Parker thinks it's the best thing ever. As far as I'm concerned, if the people in this community like that wine, that's more important to me. And so the Verde Valley Wine Consortium, because we'd like it to be objective and not connected, and obviously Page Springs can't run it because we're going to be in it too. So the consortium is going to run the event, and it came up, Tom Schumacher came up with a really brilliant idea. If you look at the ticket on the bottom there, you can see a little yellow bottle, a little red bottle, and essentially you'll tear this little stub off your bottle and drop it into the different areas, and then we'll tally them at the end, and you vote as you go. So.
All right, great idea.
We already have the website up. When you saw at the beginning, End of Tunnel Ventures, we set up a separate LLC so that we can have the liability and insurance policy and all that stuff reside with that business. It is a subsidiary of Page Springs Cellars. We have an independent website where we'll have ticket sales. We'll have all the local vendors and other businesses that we're supporting. There'll be booths of all kinds of artisans at this event as well. And it'll all be featured on this website, and each year we'll update it, and we hope to use this as the portal to continue to grow this as an information spot. So check it out. It's still, evolving, but there's some pretty neat things up there already. Again, local vendors, and we're trying to focus on local business almost exclusively. The food trucks aren't, and some of the wineries are from other spots in northern Arizona. But so much attention has been focused on, over time, the Wilcox and the Sonoyta area. We figure it's time for us to start focusing on northern Arizona.
So just to share with you, the council tonight is our second reading of a new food truck ordinance. So we're going to be encouraging it more locally also.
Cool. Awesome. Okay. And again, I just talked about the Kid Zone, rock climbing wall, teen gaming. We're actually going to have events for teens as well. One of our philanthropic foci last year was the teen center, for better or for worse, as far as where that money went. This year it's going to be the Big Brothers and Sisters, Verde Valley Humane Society, and Prescott Creeks Preservation Association. So we're basically doing children, animals, and the environment, so kind of a three-pronged.
Can't beat that, can you?
Yeah, and our goals are at $20,000 minimum this year. And, another part of this, because we've always wanted to support teens, I have 4 teenagers of my own, is we're going to have a teen gaming tent where there'll be an Xbox, Sony, et cetera, and things going on there for teens as well, rather than just events for little kids. I'm sure we'll learn a lot through that process. We talked about food trucks, local businesses. You know, irregardless of the funding that you all have been discussing about us, there are so many other things that we're partnering on where really you're helping us out immensely. Having a shuttling system from Sedona, from Cliff Castle, all around the valley, and us coordinating that so that people aren't driving, so that we don't have congestion, has been a godsend. We are also going to have we're going to have support. I don't know if it's actually in this slideshow somewhere. We're going to have support from your police department as well in security this year, which is also a really big factor in making this successful. Depending on your musical tastes, we have nailed down all the bands this year. Rusted Root and Robert O'Keefe will be the two respective headliners for Saturday and Friday nights. Lone Bellow, if you like blues, bluegrass, or country music, you'll like the overall layout of our show. Robert O'Keefe is a great kind of country bluesman from Texas. He plays up at the Orpheum all the time. He plays down at the Rhythm Room down in Phoenix. Lone Bellow's an up-and-coming kind of country bluegrass act. They were on, I think, Letterman recently, or we're trying to figure out ways to get bands right before they become really big, so we can still afford them. And Dry River Yacht Club's from Phoenix, Melt With Me's from Phoenix, Camden Whiskey's coming out of Asheville, North Carolina. Decker is a local band. Muskellunge is local. Pick and Holler's local, and PK Gregory's local. So some bigger names from around the country, but also trying to support our local music as well.
Great.
Our thought down the road is to go with Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and it'll probably say this in just a second. Go ahead. We've had tons of interest from the microbreweries in the state, and just like the wine industry, that's the other big growth area. If you go to Flagstaff lately, there's about a dozen breweries up there now, and we didn't want to really have breweries there yet because we didn't want to dilute the experience business-wise for the wineries. But we think if it goes well this year, next year we'll be able to do that. And then probably the biggest change for us is we're sinking a lot more money into marketing. Throughout, we have a publicist down in the valley we're going to be working with. We're going to be doing ads on Pandora. We're going to be in the Republic. We've already built this website. I could go on and on, but we have a really large marketing budget because essentially it's how do we get people here to the Verde Valley? How do we get people to Cottonwood? And we hope that we can get this thing rolling enough that eventually it'll be branded and people will be waiting in line every year for this. And we're willing to hang out for that long haul. Big picture down the road. We've also been talking with the folks who put on the Sedona Film Festival to see if we can work film into this in different ways. There's a lot of interesting wine and brewery and all kinds of film out there that has to do with some of the themes that we're working with already at our festival. And obviously when we say things like this has to fit within the context of what works for this community. We want to grow this, but we don't want to grow it so big that it becomes a problem either. And I'll say right off the bat, I have a lot of experience with that because there's days at Page Spring Cellars now on Saturdays where people complain because they have to wait in lines at our tasting room. And that was never our intention. We want people to have this quality experience and not turn away because of congestion. And so that's something I think we'll continue having a discussion about because this is all about this community and making things work here. And again, we already talked about the breweries. We've got our first distiller in town. There's certainly opportunities for us to explore whether or not we think that's a good idea down the road to expand it to craft distilleries as well. And, really this interfaces with so many things. We're right down in Riverfront Park. The wineries, breweries, local businesses, Old Town. I mean, the Old Town is right here. People are going to be walking back and forth. We're going to be shuttling people. All these hotels will be full. All the businesses. We'd like to have conversations to see if few of these restaurants, Eric Jorgensen will be willing to stay open later on some of these nights so that we can feed these people. There's so many things we can do with this, and really the sky's the limit. But it's all about maintaining the quality of this event for our community along with the kind of economic benefits. And we've also talked, we have all kinds of artists, everything from plein air to sculptors. People have talked about ice sculptures on this in the middle of the summer and watching them melt and all that. And there's so many things we can do. Light.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, people have talked about light sculpture at night and doing interesting reflections off these sails. We've, you're gonna see some really neat things happen. I think that's it. We can certainly answer any questions if you guys have
You want to catch the lights, please? Yes, Mr. Pratt.
I don't have any questions. I have some comments. I think this is a great thing for Cottonwood. I think it's a great thing for the local wine industry. It's not just going to be an economic boon. It's also one of my interests as a city council person is cultural events, and I think it'll be a great cultural event. We're going to lose rhythm and ribs. This one is, finally tonight we have one that's a no-brainer. We've already committed to the $20,000, and it's only going to help the city and the Verde Valley out. And, I don't know how you feel about the college, but if you talk to them about maybe getting involved too, and I do work at college, so I have
there and they'll be involved,
interest there.
Yeah.
And last year I went, and it was great, and I purposely went down there the first thing the next morning. And the park, I was amazed at what condition the park was in after the crowd you have.
Thanks.
People really kept it neat, and I think you guys had it organized well with receptacles, and in fact, I think I woke Corey up. He was involved in it.
Just sleep in the field
So
somewhere.
what'd you do, pick up all the litter already? It looked really good. It's just a great event for us, and again, a no-brainer, and we appreciate your efforts to do this.
Thanks, and same.
I really appreciate the efforts to mitigate issues with the neighbors. My one concern about moving the stage is, will the musicians be facing the sun, or how will, that's going to be a toughie.
Hez and I have been duking it out about this for I don't know where you went. Again, we're starting later, number one, so there's not going to be many hours of sun before it drops and will be shaded. And then we're exploring actually a sail structure in front of the stage as well. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of costly, and we're trying to, it's the old, do we buy it and amortize it out over a number of years, or do we rent it because we don't want to take as big a hit this year? But there's some beautiful sail structures that are all multifaceted, and you can actually project lights underneath them too. And so I think 75% of the bands will be fine because of the time of day, and then we're still exploring the best solutions for the bands that go, the band or two that locals that go on early.
It'll be really nice for the public.
Yeah.
I mean, the participants.
Yeah,
if we can just keep the band cool and shaded somehow.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Did you want to come?
Locals should be acclimated to it.
The locals should be acclimated.
I've seen them play a rhythm and ribs in the sun. Yeah.
Oh yeah, right out in the middle of Main Street with no shade. This is true.
Well, that was walking on Main. Yeah.
Walking on
We're
Main.
going to put the bands from Phoenix on first.
Tim?
I wanted to ask, you mentioned that there'd be free shuttle for from Sedona and back from the CAT program. Can you go more in detail on that?
Yeah. Do you want to say that first?
Well, we've been kind of working at this, very similar to what we've done for Thunder Valley Rally. Having a circulator in town to shuttle people around town and make sure that they get to where they need to go, especially to all the hotels.
Right.
We want to make sure they get to the hotel, especially after they've been out at the festival all day. Right. In looking at how it's going to play out as far as from Sedona, I want to try it this year without adding an additional bus. Mm-hmm. We have the links running all the time on Saturday and Sunday anyway. Right. So I want to just try it with the links connecting into the shuttle for the festival on its regular schedule. Right. See how that runs. It's a trial thing. We don't know. I don't know how many people are going to be coming from Sedona, so we're going to try it this way. If we find that it gets overloaded, I have lots of drivers that want the overtime.
Sure.
I can call somebody in, we can add a bus and take care of it that way. We're just going to try it on our regular schedule and see how it goes.
Now, by regular schedule, I mean that there won't be a bus that runs past 9 at night, or will you run them up to midnight?
We talked about that, Hez and I talked about it, and one of the things we learned about from Thunder Valley Rally is that if we don't run the bus past the end of the entertainment, there are problems.
Right.
So we're going to run the buses past the end of the entertainment and make sure that everybody that wants a ride can get a ride.
Right.
So we're going to extend the hours a little bit to make sure that that can happen.
I think that's great. I'm glad to see that we're making that happen. I've said it's unrelated, but I think I've mentioned it in the past where I think we should do that too for Brian Mickelson and I mean all those events that the city puts on where we have public transportation.
Well, and we're learning as we go,
Yeah.
because the Thunder Valley Rally has sort of blossomed, and last year was the first year that we ran the shuttle the way we did, and found out, oops, there were a lot more people on it than we anticipated.
Yeah.
And they wanted it to go later, so we know now, so we're gonna run it later, and we'll learn some more probably this year.
Right.
So.
But now the $20,000 that council's considering to pay overtime for your employees to run folks up to midnight or beyond is going to be out of your budget. It wouldn't necessarily come out of this $20,000 that we're discussing at this point.
No, all these extra costs, such as police department and that's above the 20,000.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And I had one other question for Mr. Glomsky too. Thanks, Bruce.
I wanted to actually add something, Tim, to the question you just had for him. I don't know if you're all aware of this, but there's over 20 private wine tour companies now too that have sprung up around this new industry, and all of them. And some of these range from 4-person Jeeps up to 25-person, large transport vans. All of those privateers will be out working these events as well, and so we'll have additional capacity to help with the public transportation.
Well, I think it looks really good though on Cottonwood that we would provide public transportation for the attendees too. I think that just makes us
a regional player.
Yeah, leader. That's right. So
yes.
The other question I had was about the neighbors. What was the
how'd it go?
Yeah, how'd it go?
I mean, my understanding, and Susanna might be able to add, we basically had one complaint last year, and it was repeated from a single gentleman who had a gathering at his house. We went to great lengths to reach out to all the addresses in that neighborhood behind where the park is. And, to be completely honest with you, I'm not sure what broke down with that one situation, other than they planned something. Apparently they never got the word and didn't know this was going on, and we both had parties on the same night, and ours was louder, kind of, And I think, and again, I think we learned things from that. I mean, when we used to do them just down in Page Springs, we've even offered to put up neighbors in hotels if they didn't want to join us. So, I mean, we'll do anything we can to, I understand if somebody wants a good night's sleep, and this is an important night to have it, we're going to do what we can to help that happen. We're also going to break down and be out of there really quickly after, when we said it was going to end. I think we can do a better job of making sure, it's one thing to send a letter and an email. It's another thing to maybe go door to door. Maybe and I welcome, you guys have probably dealt with this way more than us. If you have any suggestions on how we can be more effective, we'll do it.
Sometimes like a door, what do you call them?
Door hanger.
Door hanger, yeah, those. You wouldn't actually have to talk to the person, or if they weren't home, you could just drop that message off along that street, especially that's contiguous to the park.
And just to add on that, city manager and Richard have directed staff for us to walk around and actually approach those residents in that neighborhood to explain the program to them, explain the reason why this is happening, how it's a regional benefit, and then to see if we can work out some kind of accommodation for them. As council's aware, within RIBS has always been a loud program. It's one of those things to where no matter the volume level, the bass that these speakers produce, that low decibel, tends to travel. We live in an area that has beautiful vistas because there's not a lot of trees, but trees buffer sound, so it tends to travel. But we've done our best to point the stage in a moderate position, taking into account the sun. So we're doing our best effort.
And I would also ask that you contact state parks if you haven't already thought of that. I'm sure you have.
They were on the first TUP meeting,
Okay.
so an invitation was extended to George.
Okay, so because they have people that they have to answer to also that spend the night there, so. So they should invite everybody to come down, right?
There you go.
Join the party.
There you go.
Yes,
I
Vice
heard
Mayor.
it last year from my house, and the way that you're turning the stage, I'll hear it better this year. So if it gets too bad, I'll call you, Hez, and you can get me a hotel room.
You can charge
If I'm not
$10
there.
for stadium seats, yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
I do, this is kind of my stance on this. This is a community, and we have 365 days a year. And we have to share sometimes. We have to share our space. We have to share things. And these activities do not happen very often. They don't happen 365 days a year, but sometimes they do happen, and we all need to figure it out on how to get along and to get through it, so.
Appreciate it. Yeah, they benefit us all.
It benefits everyone. I mean, to have, we just learned at the National Geographic meeting that Cottonwood has 300 hotel rooms. Sedona has 3,000. You know, we need more hotel rooms for some of the activities that we have. So it really, I mean, it doesn't help just Sedona. It's going to help Camp Verde, and it'll help Jerome and Clarkdale, wherever there are beds and breakfast, and it'll help everyone that's in that industry. And what people don't always understand is that provides fire protection, that provides our Parks and Recreation Department with funding, that provides police funding, it provides services to our community members. So everyone benefits. Yes, Mr. Linsky?
I wanted just to say, I fully support this event, and I was saddened to see Rhythm and Ribs go, but I know this is a good use of the money that used to support Rhythm and Ribs. And I appreciate Chandler, was it, that allowed us to plagiarize this form, which is nice. I appreciate your professional presentation, and I appreciate your benchmarking things too. But I guess essentially what we're going to be doing is every year we're going to put out this event sponsorship funding application. Will be open to anybody. Anybody can fill this form out.
I think the way staff sees this form working is that if there's funding available, then we can put this application out to the public, and then see if we get any response. This is really a tool to keep council informed of Tilted Earth and the relationship and partnership, so that you guys, as the public's voice, have information that you can respond back to.
I guess my question is, if every year we're going to have some sum of money, I mean, are every year, I think what Steve's trying to do is make sure that we have some sort of mechanism where we open it up to the public so that anybody can apply for that money. Right now we have the End of the Tunnel Ventures applying for the money. Is that correct?
And Steve's not here to comment, but from what staff gathered from Mr. Horton was that in lieu of a specific agreement, because obviously Tilted Earth was prior to this funding application, that we come up with an application format that Tilted Earth fills out, so there's some kind of
accountability
promissory note. That this is our intentions as Page Springs sellers with Tilted Earth and the $20,000. So kind of like I said in the beginning of the presentation, the cart before the horse. Again, in lieu of a agreement, this application form was put forth.
Okay.
Hope that answers your question.
It does. I just, I just making sure that we follow all the rules.
I hope Mr. Horton let us know that.
So we have, Richard, do you have a comment?
Well, I know that Steve felt that there was a void there where there wasn't any aspect of community in the context of working in a relationship like this. And he had searched throughout the state, so he wanted to try to find something that was statewide or somewhere there, and Chandler was that lucky one, and they did have it. Steve then indicated, here's the perfect opportunity for you to utilize this. Call them up, see if they don't have a problem with this plagiarizing, and they did not. They felt that was actually a unique way of saying, hey, we did a good job.
Right.
But it works for them, and he felt that it could definitely work for us. And this concept, especially when we work directly with someone who's providing something that has substance for the community, works in the context of public-private, working together to create opportunities for the public like this. So that's where Steve indicated this was the best way to do it.
Got it. I guess my concern is that if next year, I know we've already really discussed where this money is going to go this year, but if next year we have another event company that wants to take advantage of this money through the city of Cottonwood, that everybody should.
I don't really think that's what it's about at all.
No.
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 And it's very complete.
Yeah, I mean, what it is to have them be accountable for the $20,000, I think. But we make the decision to support this event, and we don't necessarily have to consider, it's not like a bidding process.
That's exactly right.
It's
Steve felt that there was a definite need in this direction, and again, it was one of those where it's not who is going to be competing for those funds.
Right.
It's definitely something where we feel that this is viable and it's very valuable to the community to work directly with them and them with us, and so therefore there really wouldn't be any competition. We would continue coming to the council each year.
Right.
And this is a format
like you did for Rhythm and Riz.
Right,
I
and
mean,
it operates in that
in
concept.
the budget. It's in the budget process.
No, I understand, but the form itself is a competitive form, though. There's a whole process that it talks about where it's competitive. So if we're going to use the form in that process, then I would think we'd open it up for everybody. If every year we're just going to work with End of the Tunnel Ventures, and that's our prerogative too.
I think if there was an opportunity where there was additional money, then what the council could do is to state, well, that they would like to apply additional money to this program, or if there was something else out there, again, that maybe there was the opportunity. But primarily, this program fit perfectly for that. That's what Chandler utilizes in the same context.
All right, got it.
Okay, any questions or comments from members of the public on this item? If not, Mr. Pratt?
I'd like to make a motion.
Please.
I move to approve the event sponsorship packet process and to authorize $20,000 in funding to support the 2015 Tilted Earth Music Wine Festival.
Second.
So Mr. Pratt made the motion, the Vice Mayor seconded it. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you all. Thanks.
It's going to be a fun event, I know. Okay, so now we have the representation of the Water Conservation Award of Excellence to the city from Keep Sedona Beautiful for the city's water conservation strategies and reclaimed water project for Yavapai College's awards. And would you please?
Got that.
Okay.
Oh, great.
So are you going to do a presentation? Or,
sure. I'll do a presentation.
Or did you want me to do a presentation?
Mayor, Council.
Okay.
Sedona Beautiful presented City of Cottonwood with their 2014 Water Conservation Award of Excellence. In response to the city's efforts for water conservation, water education, and reclaimed water programs. We have a wonderful time, a wonderful luncheon, and Nikki Bagley from Yavapai College was there for the viticulture program.
And no one can hear you in TV land.
I'm sorry.
So, part of it wasn't part of it our project with Yavapai College for using reclaimed water on the vineyards.
Nikki Bagley was there as their representative.
Nikki was there. And it was really, the vice mayor was there. Who else was there that's here tonight?
Mr. Bartosh, Mr. Luder?
Mr. Bartosh
Yourself?
and Mr. Luder was there.
Oh, Debbie was there too?
Of course, Debbie was there. But the application that Roger worked on and sent in was, I mean, it had a lot more information in it, and there was a pretty extensive article published about all the different things that they submitted so that we could win this award. And I'm really proud of this one from a local entity. So, anything else that anyone else wants to add? Roger, did you have more?
They thought we needed some public recognition, the members of KSB, so.
That's excellent.
We're glad to get it.
So if council wants to come up and with staff and accept this award.
I'm the picture carrier.
You please.
No, I'm just the carrier.
Right there?
No, really, I'm not saying that.
So I'm very proud of the city council and everything that they have done along with our staff in the arena of water conservation. Take a couple, Ryan, because
I'm just gonna fire away. That one's on paparazzi.
all right, do you want me to take the camera, I think, so that you can escape? You're welcome. Thank you very much for being our photographer. So, as I was saying, this council has done so much. This is a city that walks its talk on water conservation. We've reduced our leakage from about 45% since we purchased the private water companies down to 11%. There's just a plethora of things that we've done as a council and a fantastic staff that we can all be very, very proud of. I'm proud to work with this council on conservation efforts. Thank you, staff, for all of your work on this. Okay, approval of the minutes. We have the strategic... Oh, I'm sorry. I'm reading the wrong agenda here. So, the next item is call to the public. This portion of the agenda is set aside for the public to address the council regarding an item that is not listed on the agenda for discussion. However, the council cannot engage in discussion regarding any item that is not officially listed on the agenda for discussion and/or action. Comments are limited to a 5-minute time period. Is there anyone who would like to speak to the public? If not, we'll close the floor to the public and move on to approval of the minutes. We have the strategic retreat of January 29th, 2015, the regular meeting of March 3rd, 2015, and work session of March 10th, 2015. Any comments? If not, I would entertain a motion.
I move we approve the minutes.
Second.
Mr. Elinsky moved to approve the minutes. The Vice Mayor seconded it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Comments regarding items listed on the agenda are limited to a 5-minute time period per speaker. Unfinished business. Ordinance number 610, amending Title I, General Provisions of the Cottonwood Municipal Code, second and final reading. Mr. Luder.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We discussed this at the work session, and basically this ordinance is the rules and lays out the groundwork for all the following ordinances and how they're to be enacted, interpreted, deleted, so forth. So this is the kind of the housekeeping ordinance to lay out the ground rules for the rest of them.
Okay, and as Mr. Luter said, we have discussed this and in quite detail. So are there any comments or questions from the council? Any comments from the public? If not, I would entertain a motion. Mr. Pratt?
I'll move to approve ordinance number 610, amending Title I, general provisions of the Cottonwood Municipal Code.
Second. Okay, Mr. Pratt made the motion, the vice mayor seconded it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. City Clerk, please read ordinance number 610 by title only.
Ordinance number 610, an ordinance of the mayor and city council of the city of Cottonwood, Arizona, amending Title I, general provisions of the Cottonwood Municipal Code. Madam Mayor.
Okay. Item number 2 is ordinance number 609, amending Title V, business taxes, licenses, and regulations of the Cottonwood Municipal Code by deleting Chapter 5.17, street vendors, in its entirety and adding a new Chapter 5.17, mobile food vendors, second and final reading. Mr. Luter.
Madam Mayor, this ordinance has gone through numerous revisions, as I'm sure council remembers. I believe we finally captured what the majority of the council wanted for mobile food vendors, make it easier for them to operate and, more importantly, easier for them to understand. Be happy to answer any questions.
And this one we talked about, gosh, 5 or 6 times, I think.
Yeah.
And so it's been thoroughly vetted. Any comments or questions from members of the council? Members of the public? If I would entertain a motion, Mr. Dowling?
I move to approve ordinance 609.
Second.
Mr. Dowling made the motion, Mr. Elinsky seconded it. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. City Clerk, please read ordinance number 609 by title only.
Ordinance number 609, an ordinance of the mayor and city council of the city of Cottonwood, Arizona, amending Title V, business taxes, licenses, and regulations of the Cottonwood Municipal Code by deleting Chapter 5.17, street vendors, in its entirety and adding a new Chapter 5.17, mobile food vendors. Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much. Item number 3 is ordinance number 611, amending Title 8, Health and Safety of the Municipal Code by adding a new Chapter 8.68, designated areas for use of tobacco products at city parks, second and final reading. Mr. Bigelow.
Madam Mayor, members of the council, March 3rd we discussed or we introduced creating designated smoking areas for use of tobacco in the city parks. The Yavapai County Anti-Tobacco Coalition presented that originally, and that's no new news, essentially, just kind of reminding you where we were. And then I did reach out, I was able to reach out to Verde Valley Medical Center. They're going to sponsor some of the signage for up to like $500 or something like that.
Wonderful.
So, getting some help with some of that funding.
Fantastic. Give them our thanks.
I think this one we started discussing in December of last year, I believe.
Right.
We've talked about it a number of times.
And I so admire the youth in our community that came forward and took a leadership role in caring about the health of the community.
I thought it was terrific.
Any comments from members of the public? Any more comments from council? Mr. Elinsky, do you want to make a motion?
Sure. I'll move to approve ordinance number 611.
Second.
Mr. Elinsky made the motion. Mr. Pratt seconded it. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Ryan, thanks for your work on this, too.
Yes,
You
thank
worked
you.
with those kids really closely.
Thank you.
We appreciate you, sincerely. Consent agenda. For all of those who have been waiting for the consent, Chief, the following items are considered to be routine and non-controversial by the council and will be approved by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member or a citizen so requests, in which case the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered in its normal sequence on the agenda. Item number 1 is award of the Civic Center parking lot project through the job order contract with Arizona Northern Equipment. Item number 2 is resolution number 2789, authorizing the submission of a grant proposal in the connection with the Governor's Office of Highway Safety, the GOS, I guess it's called, for year 2016 funding cycle. Resolution number 2788 is authorizing the Police Department to submit a fiscal year 2016 grant proposal to the Governor's Office of Highway Safety, seeking funds to cover overtime expenses associated with the department's DUI task force detail. Item number 4 is award of contract for geotechnical engineering services for the Mingus Avenue Reconstruction Project, Willard to 10th Street to Western Technologies Incorporated. Item 5 is acceptance of a permanent sidewalk easement as dedicated by the property owners at 1150 East 1st Street, APN 406-05025D. Item number 6 is a new liquor license application for Diane L. Huntsbarger, owner of Mrs. Masaki Sushi Lounge, located at 654 South Main Street. Are there any items that a member of the council would like to pull for specific discussion tonight? Are there any items that a member of the public would like to pull for specific discussion? If not, I would entertain a motion. Mr. Pratt?
I move we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
He can have it.
Okay. Mr. Pratt made the motion. Mr. Elinsky seconded it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Good night, Chief.
It's no sushi. It's no sushi time.
Okay. Thank you. Item number 11 is new business. The following items are for council discussion, consideration, and possible legal action. Number 1 is the 12th Street Reconstruction Project easement purchase agreements. Mr. Scott?
Madam Mayor, members of the council, great news that we finally have all the easements we need to move forward with 12th Street, which is good now that we're officially under contract. We did have all the documents signed just a few days after we gave the notice to proceed. As you've seen, the contractors beginning on 12th Street, they've already closed the street as of yesterday, I believe. They'll start tomorrow with a couple of the culvert crossings and moving forward. The 3 easements in front of you today are from the largest property owners along 12th Street, which is one of the reasons this has gone on for so long. These are the properties that were the most impacted. Unfortunately, one of them we did have to end up going a condemnation route. They ended up granting it to us before we went as far as condemnation. However, that property was officially appraised and they're receiving compensation for it. Another property also wanted appraisal of their property because they felt the slopes reaching onto their property severely impacted their property. So that appraisal did appraise that. I believe it was about $18,000, as you can see in your report. So that property owner will receive about $18,000 for the easements. And then the third property owner was able to work with us and is very happy with the driveways that we're giving them and the extensions of culverts and a few of the things we were able to work out that we saw as a benefit to both the public and the property owner. And we didn't have to go through the process of paying an appraisal and several other things. We believe we saved the city a substantial amount of money there in that area. But getting these last 3 easements down, we have everything we need for 12th Street.
Oh, that's wonderful news.
Yeah.
That's been a how many year effort?
That was the first project we started on when I started for the city in 2008.
All right.
So it's gone on quite a while. It's good to.
And council's been working with the public and promising this road would be completed for that long also.
If not longer.
So it must be a very good feeling for you, right?
Yes.
To wrap that up, that
Yes,
piece of it. How many hours have you spent on it?
It's about time.
Yes. Yeah.
Just
really.
Now that you remind me of that, just in case, I'm going to go sit over there.
Okay.
Steve's mentioned there's not an issue, but
Jesse's declaring a conflict, and we still have a majority with.
Wrestling with a camera.
With 5 of us. He's having a fight with the camera. So are there any comments from members of the public on this item? Any questions or comments from the council other than what we've already said? If not, I would entertain a motion.
I move to approve the proposed easement purchase agreements with IDRA HAJE LLC, William and Rebecca Drake, and Jackson Investment Properties LLC, and Daniels Property Investments LLC, and to authorize the mayor to execute the agreements and take any additional action required to carry out the purpose of those agreements.
Second.
Okay, Mr. Pratt made the motion, the vice mayor seconded it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 2 is acceptance of a water, pardon me?
Trade places with Jesse.
It's declaring conflict.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. I understand. Acceptance of a water line access and maintenance easement on a portion of parcel number 406-22-061C. And Councilmember Elinsky has declared a conflict. Mr. Biggs.
Madam Mayor and Council, I ask that Council accept a water line access and maintenance easement on parcel 406-22-061C at the address of 1038 North Cactus Street. This is to allow the city to access and maintain the water line that runs across a portion of that property. Any questions?
Any questions?
Where is that property located?
1038 North Cactus.
It's
right down the street.
That's in front of Tim's
I know
house.
that, that's a rough neighborhood.
So if I'm finding my item, so just a second. I have to go back to the home page and scroll down the agenda, and then I hit on the item and it goes to it. So here I am. Okay, any questions, comments? Anyone from the public wish to speak on this item? Okay, I would entertain a motion.
I'll make the motion. I move
Mr.
to
Garrison?
accept the water line access and maintenance easement on the Yavapai County APN 406-22-061C as presented.
Second.
Mr. Garrison made the motion, the vice mayor seconded it. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Item number 3, Transportation Services Agreement with Verde Valley Caregivers Coalition. Bruce, finally. It's been a long night, right?
Well, I'll try and make this as painless as possible. What we're seeking here is Verde Valley Caregivers Coalition provides a lot of services besides transportation. What's happened in the past is they've had contracts with like CK's Need to Live and other transportation providers, some of which are resident in Prescott and Prescott Valley. What happens sometimes is that if they can't provide a ride for somebody from Prescott Valley over here in order to provide a ride for somebody here in Cottonwood, they call up and say, we're not coming. So what happens is you have somebody here that needs to go to dialysis, or somebody here that needs to go to physical therapy, or somebody that needs to go to a doctor's appointment. And Verde Valley Caregiver said, I have nobody to take you. So what we talked with Kent Ellsworth, the director over there, and I've talked with Steve Horton, our attorney, and we put together a contract to enable us to provide services also for the Caregivers Coalition. Most of the time this is going to be primarily for their patients or their clients that need the extra help. They might need the use of our buses for wheelchairs, for example. Or they might have extra baggage. We have a lot of folks that need oxygen and other things that the caregivers can't necessarily take because they're using their own personal vehicles. So what we're attempting to do is provide services that go above and beyond what caregivers can provide. And because of the lack of sometimes services providers out in the community, they can't always get to where they need to go. One of the things that we've discovered in this whole process is that one of the things that like the medical center has been required to do because of the new care program they have to get patients back in a certain amount of time after they've had surgery or an extended stay in the hospital. A lot of those patients are ignoring that because they can't get the ride to get back in. So in working with the caregivers, we're giving them another option to provide those needed rides for people to get back into their aftercare visits to make sure that they don't end up in the hospital again, thereby costing everybody more money. So I think it's a win-win proposition. Most of the trips are going to either originate or end here in Cottonwood. We know there's going to be some. They have a couple of people that have chemotherapy here and radiation therapy in Sedona. So we know there's going to be a couple of them like that. There may be some others. We don't know yet. But the idea is to be able to provide these rides, especially for those that are in the most need. And those are the ones that we're targeting with this whole thing. We've worked very, very hard with the caregivers to make sure that in their selection process that we keep it to the people that need it the most and can better make use of the facilities that we have.
So, Mr. Pratt?
This is just another opportunity for Cottonwood to show our altruism and our service to the community at large. There is funding, I noticed, available. So, again, this is probably the second no-brainer tonight. Why wouldn't we do this to serve our public? And again, Cottonwood steps up and we do serve the whole Verde Valley through our transportation system, and I think we ought to feel good about that.
We should.
And I think we should feel good about supporting this.
Well, and the funding has been kind of interesting because Mr. Ellsworth went to the Northern Arizona Healthcare Foundation and secured about $60,000 from the foundation to help fund this.
And I see Yavapai County also.
Yavapai County has stepped up, and they have said that they will donate about $10,000.
That's wonderful.
To help with this. So the bulk of this is going to be paid for. They're going to provide for every ride that we provide $10 for the ride. I've calculated our cost is about $765. So there's a little bit of fudge room in there of about $3, $3.50 that or $2.50 that we may actually make a little bit of a profit on this. Just a little tiny bit.
But the most important thing is we're providing a service to our citizens.
I mean, when you think of somebody that can't get dialysis,
Well, and that's the thing. One of the best presenters when I went to the Southwest Transit Association conference in Santa Fe was a gentleman that goes around the country. He's on dialysis, and he goes around the country promoting transit and the help that transit provides him in getting to his dialysis appointments, and the way that we can also work with the patients and the providers, like DaVita, in making sure that they get to their appointments, making sure that they're okay after their appointments, and get them back home. And it was really a great presentation that he did for the whole organization. And what I was excited about is we're already doing it with our dialysis patients that we have on our client list. And now we'll be able to extend that more. We have some that we know are on Saturdays. And with this, we'll be able to provide them rides on Saturdays now. So.
I just wanted to share that I went to the rec center. Yes, I did. You all should. I went, applause. Oh, just kidding. On Friday, starting a new leaf in life. And as I was arriving at the door, I saw the bus pull up, and a couple that I had met at one of our long ago transit meetings when we were making changes and the public was participating a lot. The wife does not have sight, and the husband is restricted in his vision. And they were getting off at the rec center to go work out. And one thing that they said at this meeting many years ago or several years ago was that they chose Cottonwood to come and live because of the transit and enabled them to get around.
And I hear that quite a lot as I go through the stores and talk with people in various different locations, you know, at the senior center and other places where I actually end up speaking. A lot of people are saying that they come to Cottonwood because we have a transit system. They don't go to Prescott, they don't go to Prescott Valley, they come here because of our transit system. And I thank you folks for keeping it going, because if I didn't have your support, we wouldn't have one.
Well, we appreciate your community-mindedness and your talents and abilities to look around you and make things happen and keep the cost as low as possible while providing a better quality of life to our community, which is why this council supports it. Vice Mayor?
It's a big request of relocation packets, too. One of the top of the list is transit.
Well, and that's why I keep an ad in the relocation packets with Cottonwood Area Transit and Verde Links.
It's important.
Because people do request those, and I want to make sure they understand. If you get here, we can get you someplace else.
Right, exactly.
And get there from here.
I would entertain questions or comments on this item. Any more questions that you might have? I'd entertain a motion. Vice Mayor?
I move to approve the contract for transportation services with the Verde Valley Caregivers Coalition.
Second that.
Okay, so the Vice Mayor made the motion, Mr. Dowling seconded it. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Mr.
Okay, claims and adjustments.
I move to pay the claims and adjustments.
Second.
Mr. Pratt made the motion, Mr. Elinsky seconded it. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. I move to adjourn.
Second.
The mayor made the motion, the vice mayor seconded it first. All in favor? Aye. We're adjourned.